Folks, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine waking up, grabbing your coffee, turning on the TV and seeing the breaking news banners flashing red, the ticker is moving so fast you can barely read it. U.S. forces on the ground in Caracas, President Maduro in handcuffs, hauled off like a common criminal by American troops. No warning, no debate in Congress, just a midnight order from the White House that sends our sons and daughters into harm barriers. That is what happened this week. That is the reality we are living in right now. Before I get further into this, I need to ask you something. We are in a fight for the soul of this nation, and I can't do it alone. If you believe like I do, that America deserves a leader who respects the law and respects the people, then I need you to join us. Hit that subscribe button right now. Become a member of this channel. Stand with us because we have to speak up before it's too late. Now look, nobody's going to stand here and tell you Nicolás Maduro is a good guy. He's a dictator. He's hurt his own people. We know that. But there's a right way and a wrong way to handle things on the world stage. And what we saw, bypassing the United States Congress, bypassing our allies, acting like a cowboy of the most powerful military in the history of the world, that is the wrong way. My father used to say, Joey, don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value. Well, show me your foreign policy, and I'll tell you if you value democracy. When you launch a massive military operation without telling the American people why, without getting the approval of the people's representatives, you aren't showing strength. You're showing recklessness. You are gambling with American lives and global stability. People are scared right now. I hear it. I see it. Mothers worrying if this means their kids are getting deployed next. Families wondering if this is the start of another endless war. And for what? To stroke an ego, to make a splash on the nightly news. We are better than this. America is supposed to be the steady hand, the beacon of light, not the source of chaos. And just when you think you've seen it all, just when you think the situation couldn't get any more bizarre, we hear about Greenland. You can't make this stuff up. While the world is holding its breath over Venezuela, while the streets of Caracas are boiling over, this administration is pivoting to talk about buying an island. It's treated like a real estate deal, like they're trying to build another hotel tower, not manage the delicate balance of international relations. I saw reports that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, is out there pushing this strategy. He's talking about strategic interests in expanding our footprint. Well, let me tell you what our allies have seen. I've spoken to leaders in Europe, friends in Denmark, friends in France. They aren't impressed. They're horrified. They're looking at Washington and they don't recognize us anymore. They see a superpower that's treating sovereign nations like pieces on a monopoly board. This isn't just about being polite. This is about safety. When you treat your friends with disrespect, when you threaten to buy their territory or ignore their sovereignty, you end up alone. And in a dangerous world, America cannot afford to be alone. We need our friends. We need NATO. We need the people who have stood by us for 70 years. But right now, under Donald Trump, we are pushing them away. We are telling the world that the United States takes what it wants. Rules be damned. And that scares me. It scares me because I know what happens when the guardrails come off. It starts with a raid in Venezuela. It pivots to threats about Greenland. And where does it end? We are watching a pattern of behavior where impulse replaces strategy, where the rule of law is treated like a suggestion. It hurts our standing, sure, but it also hurts our soul. We are a nation that built the international order to prevent chaos, not to cause it. We are the country that liberated Europe, not the country that conquers neighbors. We have to remember who we are, because right now, looking at the headlines, looking at the fear in people's eyes, it feels like we're forgetting, I carry a copy of the Constitution in my pocket, and I have for a long time. It's not just an old piece of paper to me. It's the instruction manual for this whole experiment we call America. And right now, it feels like that manual is being shredded. When I look at what's happening in Washington, with Senator Tim Kaine and others frantically trying to pass resolutions just to stop a president from starting a war on a whim, it breaks my heart. It really does. Think about what that means. We have elected officials, people you sent to Washington to represent your voice, having to fight tooth and nail just to be heard on a decision that involves life and death. That is not how this system was built. The Founding Fathers were terrified of a king. They didn't want one person waking up on the wrong side of the bed and deciding to invade a country or arrest a foreign leader. They wanted checks. They wanted balances. They wanted you to have a say. But this week, with the capture of Maduro, we saw a president who thinks the military is his own personal security guard. He didn't go to Congress. He didn't go to the American people and make the case. He just did it. And now we have lawmakers scrambling, trying to put the genie back in the bottle. It creates this deep gnawing anxiety in the pit of your stomach, doesn't it? The feeling that there's no one driving the bus, or worse, that the driver is speeding toward a cliff and has locked the doors. I spent 36 years in the Senate. I know how hard the job is. I know the weight of the decisions made in those rooms. But I also know that when you cut Congress out, you cut the people out. And when you cut the people out, you aren't leading a democracy anymore. You're ruling by decree. That is a dangerous path. It's a slippery slope. Today it's Venezuela. Tomorrow, who knows? We are seeing a pattern here that should worry every single American, Republican or Democrat. It's a pattern of act first, think later. It's a pattern of ignoring the laws that keep us safe and free. We deserve a commander-in-chief who understands that their power is borrowed from you, not owned by them. We need steady hands, not impulsive tweets turned into military orders. We need to respect the process, because without the process, all we have is chaos. And let's talk about what happens after the cameras turn off. Let's talk about the morning after. The news cycles are cheering or screaming about Maduro being in custody. But look at the reality on the ground in Caracas. We removed one figurehead, and what happened? Did democracy suddenly bloom like a flower? No, we have Delcy Rodriguez stepping in as the interim leader. The faces change, but the suffering stays the same or it gets worse. See, that's the tragedy of foreign policy by force. It's easy to break things. It's incredibly hard to fix them. When you go in with a sledgehammer, you leave a mess behind. And who pays the price for that mess? It's not the politicians in D.C., it's the families in Venezuela who now have soldiers on their streets and uncertainty in their hearts. It's the refugees fleeing across borders, desperate for a safe place to sleep. I've been in the Situation Room. I've had to make the tough calls. And I can tell you, capturing a dictator is the easy part. Building a peace that lasts, that takes work, that takes diplomacy, that takes working with our partners, not surprising them. When we act alone, we own the aftermath alone. And right now, America is owning a crisis that didn't have to happen this way. Supporters of this administration will tell you this is strength. They'll say we're flexing our muscles. But real strength isn't about how many people you can arrest or how much land you can threaten to buy in Greenland. Real strength is about leading by example. It's about showing the world that justice isn't just a word we use, but a value we live. What we have now is a foreign policy that feels like a reality TV show. Shocking twists, cliffhangers, and loud arguments. But this isn't TV. These are real lives, real consequences. And when the dust settles, we are going to have to ask ourselves, did this make us safer? Did this make us more respected? Or did it just add more fuel to a fire that was already burning out of control? I think we all know the answer to that. And it's why we have to demand better. Folks, I want to talk about the people who actually have to carry out these orders. I want to talk about the brave men and women in uniform. We have the finest fighting force in the history of the world. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. But just because they can do anything doesn't mean we should ask them to do everything, especially not without a plan. When I heard about this raid in Venezuela, my first thought wasn't about the politics. It was about the parents. It was about the spouses waiting by the phone. I know that feeling. When my son Bo was deployed, every time the phone rang, your heart stopped for a beat. You held your breath. You prayed it wasn't the call you dreaded most. Now, imagine being a family member. This week, you wake up and find out your loved one was sent into a hostile country to snatch a foreign president. And you're hearing about it on the news at the same time as the rest of the world. No debate in Congress, No clear explanation of the mission beforehand, just go. That is not how you treat our troops. They are professionals. They deserve a commander-in-chief who treats their lives with the utmost care, not as chips in a high-stakes poker game. The reports say this operation was large-scale. That means a lot of boots on the ground. That means a lot of risk. And for what? To arrest one man. We've seen this movie before. We know that removing a dictator doesn't magically solve the problems of a nation. It leaves a vacuum. And guess who gets stuck filling that vacuum? Guess who has to stay and patrol the streets when things go south? Our troops. Donald Trump seems to think the military is there to make him look tough. He uses them as a backdrop for his speeches and a tool for his sudden whims. But these are human beings. They signed up to defend the Constitution, to protect us from imminent threats. They didn't sign up to be the personal enforcement arm of a president's chaotic foreign policy. We owe them better. We owe them a strategy that looks beyond the next 24 hours. There's a word we used to hear a lot in Washington, norms. It sounds boring. I know it sounds like something a lawyer would say. But norms are what keep the world from falling apart. It's the basic agreement that countries don't just go around kidnapping each other's leaders or threatening to buy each other's land like it's a used car. When the United States decides to ignore international law, when we decide that the rules don't apply to us, we are sending a terrifying message to every other dictator and autocrat out there. We are telling them might makes right. If we can do it, why can't Russia? Why can't China? Why can't they just reach across the border and grab wherever they want? We are seeing legal experts, people who have studied this stuff their whole lives, pulling their hair out right now. They're saying this arrest of Maduro bypasses every legal framework we helped build. And it does. It puts us in a category with rogue nations. We used to be the country that stood up for the rule of law. Now, under this administration, we're the ones breaking it. And look at how this connects to the Greenland mess. It's the same mindset. It's this idea that because we are big, and because we are rich, we can do whatever we want. We can take a president here. We can buy an island there. It's transactional. It's bullying. And it completely misses the point of what makes America special. We didn't win the Cold War just because we had more missiles. We won because we had better ideas. We won because we stood for freedom, for democracy, for doing things the right way. We are losing that moral high ground every single day this continues. And once you lose that trust, once the world looks at you and sees a bully instead of a partner, it is incredibly hard to get it back. We are burning bridges that took decades to build, and it's going to take a hell of a lot of work to repair them. But we have to try. We have to show the world that this isn't who we are. You know, I talk to folks every day. I talk to neighbors. I talk to people at the Amtrak station. I talk to parents at the grocery store. And right now, there is a heaviness in the air. There's a sense that we are walking on a tightrope without a net. When you turn on the news and see the United States conducting secret raids to capture presidents, and then turning around and trying to buy massive islands like Greenland, it creates a lot of confusion. It creates division. I know there are some people out there, good people, who look at Maduro in handcuffs and say, good riddance. And I get that he's a bad actor. He's hurt Venezuela. There's a sliver of hope for some that maybe, just maybe, this gets drugs off the street or stops the corruption. I understand that hope. We all want a safer world. We all want justice. But my father taught me that the ends don't always justify the means. If we trample on our own values to get a win, have we really won? Or have we just lost a piece of ourselves? The problem is the fear that comes with it. I see the anxiety in the eyes of young people who are wondering if this is the start of World War III. They see a president who acts on impulse, who bypasses Congress, and they wonder, does my vote even matter? Do the laws even matter? When you have half the country cheering for a military raid and the other half terrified that's going to lead to global catastrophe, you have a house divided, and a house divided cannot stand. We are supposed to be the United States, united. But these actions, these surprises, these shocks, they drive a wedge right between us. They force us into corners. You're either with the president or you're against America. That's the false choice they give you. But I'm here to tell you that's malarkey. You can love this country, support our troops, and still demand that our leaders follow the law. You can want justice in Venezuela and still believe that bypassing Congress is a dangerous game. We have to stop letting them divide us with this chaos. We have to find our common ground again. And that starts with demanding a government that acts with reason, not recklessness. Let's go back to Greenland for a minute, because I don't want you to think this is just a funny sidebar. It's not. It is a flashing red light about how this administration views the world. When you have the President of the United States looking at a sovereign territory, a place with its own people, its own culture, its own pride, and seeing nothing but a real estate deal, that is profound. It tells you everything you need to know about his character. I've spent a lot of time working with our European allies. I know the Prime Minister of Denmark. I know the leaders in France. These are serious people. They have stood shoulder to shoulder with us in the toughest fights. They sent their sons and daughters to fight alongside ours in Afghanistan. And how do we repay them? By insulting them, by treating their land like it's a foreclosed property on a listing sheet. The leaders in Denmark and France aren't just annoyed, they are insulted. And they should be. They are vocal critics right now, not because they hate America, but because they are shocked by this behavior. They are looking at us and wondering if we have lost our minds. And here's the dangerous part. We need them. We need Denmark to help us monitor the Arctic. We need France to help us with counterterrorism. When we treat them like dirt, they stop answering the phone. President Trump and Secretary Rubio might think this is bold geopolitics. They might think this is how you project power, but it's not. It's how you isolate yourself. It's how you push your friends into the arms of your adversaries. China's watching this. Russia's watching this. They love it. They love seeing the United States alienate our closest partners. Every time we insult an ally, we make our enemies stronger. That isn't America first. That is America alone. And in a world as complex and dangerous as this one, being alone is the last place we want to be. We need a leader who understands that a handshake means something, that respect earns you more than threats, and that you cannot buy loyalty. We have to ask ourselves, is this the best we can do? Is this the best America has to offer? Because I don't believe it is. I refuse to believe it. I know what this country is capable of when we lead with our values. I've seen it. I've seen us bring nations together to stop genocide. I've seen us negotiate peace deals that people said were impossible. We did that not by sending in a raid team in the middle of the night without telling anyone, but by doing the hard, grinding work of diplomacy. There is a better way. It starts with respecting the Constitution. It starts with a president who understands that Congress isn't an obstacle to be bypassed, but a partner to be consulted. When Senator Karine and others talk about war powers, they aren't trying to weaken the president. They're trying to strengthen the country. They want to make sure that if we send our kids into harm's way, we have the backing of the American people. That's how democracy works. Imagine a foreign policy where we don't wake up to surprises. Imagine a White House that treats our allies like family, not like tenants. If we want to solve the crisis in Venezuela, we should be working with the whole region, with Colombia, with Brazil, with our partners in Europe, to apply pressure that actually leads to a transition, not just a photo op arrest. And as for Greenland, we should be talking to Denmark about how to protect the Arctic together, not trying to buy them out like a hostile takeover. We need steady leadership. We need a president who reads the daily briefing and understands the history, not one who makes decisions based on what he sees on cable news. We need to restore the guardrails. We need to put the United back in the United States and the United back in the United Nations. We can fix this. We can repair the damage, but we have to choose to do it. We have to choose stability over chaos. Folks, I'm going to end with this. This isn't just about Donald Trump. This is about us. It's about who we are as a people. Are we a nation that bullies its friends and ignores the law? Or are we a nation that leads with dignity and respects the rules? The world is watching, history is watching, and right now the verdict is still out. We are in a battle for the soul of this nation. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We are better than this, but saying it isn't enough. We have to act. We have to demand better. We have to show up. We cannot let this behavior become the new normal. We cannot let ourselves get numb to the outrage. When we stop being shocked by the chaos, that is when we lose. I need you to stay engaged. I need you to keep paying attention. Don't turn away just because it's painful to watch. That's what they want. They want you to get tired. They want you to give up. But we are Americans. We don't give up. We step. If you believe that we can do better, if you believe in an America that leads by the power of our example and not just the example of our power, then I need you to make your voice heard right here. Hit that like button so more people see this message. Leave a comment and tell me what you think. I read them, and I want to know where you stand. And please subscribe and become a member of this channel. We are building a movement here, one person at a time, to bring sanity and decency back to our government. Keep the faith, folks. Every single time I've bet on the American people, I've won, and I'm betting on you now.